Good evening and welcome to the Division F Education and Pathways Support Meeting. This evening we're going to go over a little bit of the progress of Pathways, how you get through it and what some of the logic is behind it. I'm going to start off with just basic level 1, and I'm just getting into Pathways really quick on another window. Levels 1 and 2 are really nice because while they give you a subject, it's so broad that you have the opportunity to talk about a lot of different things. When you think about having been a mentee, having had somebody help you learn how to do things, the stories come from throughout your life, from when you were in grade school, through high school, at work, in any relationship. So being able to give that kind of a speech, it's actually almost hard not to give a story where you're learning something, because speeches like that are fairly standard, as well as some of the other topics that are requested in levels 1 and 2. As Pathways first was rolled out, we had a lot of people wondering exactly what would be required as far as, do they have to redo levels 1 and 2 every time, especially levels 1. Why would you want to give an icebreaker? And yes, you do give an icebreaker again, because ideally, the progress of Pathways is that you start your first path, you get through a couple speeches, maybe you help on a committee, maybe you pick up an officer role, do a couple more speeches and projects. And by the time you're ready to start another level 1, which could be midway through your level 3, it's been, at least 6 months to a year for many people. Your club may have added members. You've probably grown, and possibly you've gone to a second club. So that icebreaker speech is probably going to change, because you're not introducing the same person. You're not introducing yourself to the same people. And there's just a whole lot extra area to cover. So it's literally the same speech. It's the icebreaker. And if you really, really wanted to, you could deliver the exact same speech. But you could also reflect on the growth you've had recently. It's an opportunity. So with all of the paths, even though it takes 2 paths to complete your DTM in Pathways, you do start all the way back at level 1 for each path. So let me, I forgot that they changed how everything is laid out now. So I'm in, let me get this shared. Okay, it says my speaker is not working. Is anybody, if anybody's trying to,
we can hear you okay.
Okay, cool.
Yep, I can hear too.
Good. It's just, apparently my computer is nervous about the fact that my my speaker isn't as happy as it could be. So this is the new layout for the curriculum. Can you see that yet?
Not yet.
So it starts, your level 1 starts out obviously icebreaker. Project 2 is evaluation and feedback. So you're giving 2 speeches plus an evaluation. And then the research and presentation, where you learn how to ideally give, reference information as part of the stream of information you're sharing with the speech. And level 2 is frequently something like understanding leadership, communication, or humor style, as well as the introduction to mentoring, which is a little bit about what I was talking about a moment ago, where you're talking about a time where you were being mentored and where you learned something from someone and how that relationship developed. It's an awesome opportunity for storytelling, for really getting that warm, fuzzy feeling going on. It doesn't have to be really technical about how often you met and how frequently you checked up on goals. With level 3, you have the opportunity to either think about the new skills you might want to gain or consider some of the skills you've had issues with in those first few speeches. If many of your evaluations indicate that you could use more creative language, there's an actual project using descriptive language that might help you. If you know that you need to do more presentations, because we're all on Zoom a lot more, there's both using presentation software and using creating effective visual aids. So you could actually do 2 different projects that are fairly similar, but becoming more used to using Zoom or using PowerPoint or using other types of software to make your communication clearer. There's also opportunities to try new skills like prepare for an interview, inspire your audience, focus on the positive, and connect with your audience. All of these are projects that take you a step beyond just working on speech itself, but also the experience of connecting with the audience, making sure your audience is receiving the information, being sensitive to when they're looking at you confusedly, and even stuff that goes outside the regular public speaking realm, like preparing for an interview. In many of the paths, what'll happen is they will have many of these as electives, and then they'll have one project as a required project. And that required project is frequently not in other paths. So that can be a little challenging because you might need to reach out to somebody else using the same path who might be able to help you finagle how to fit it into the new requirements of Zoom or a small club or a large club. One option when you need help on specific projects, I'm always up to help anybody, but there's also a Facebook group called the Pathways Forum. I'll triple check the name of it. And it actually is thousands of Toastmasters from all around the world who share ideas about specific projects, share ideas about how to help VPEs develop better ways of tracking and communicating, and how to look forward to your next project. So that's a great opportunity too. Levels 4 and 5 are a little bit different from some of the average Toastmasters projects that we've all seen and loved in the traditional curriculum. Here's where you get the stuff about creating a podcast, building social media presence, writing a blog, the online meeting. And then there's a couple that are a little bit similar, like managing change. Well, actually not managing change so much, but the difficult audience, the question and answer session were both parts of advanced manuals. But there's a lot of opportunity to try new things and try different types of communication, because you're not just standing up giving a speech, you're learning how to communicate either in an online manner with like the blog. You're learning how to communicate as a facilitator. You're learning how to communicate in so many different ways. And that challenge of stepping outside, just being at the podium or whatever, really helps us develop new skills. And then level 5 is a lot of the big picture projects, lead in any situation, high performance leadership, leading your volunteer organization. These are months long projects. You're not going to be able to just sit down and say, I'm going to do this today and have it done. You're reaching out to people, you're working in small groups, you're leading, you're conveying your vision, and you're bringing people in to help you get this done. And as part of creating your vision and conveying your vision, you're also making sure to convey the information individuals need, possibly pairing people up with mentors for the project. And it's a much bigger project than, oh, I'm going to run a membership drive and it'll last a week and that'll be all. It can involve timelines. It can involve balancing different resources, as well as the different talents of the people on your team. And then at the very end, there's the reflect on your path, which is an opportunity to think of all the different things that you've learned. Not necessarily all the things you were successful at. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm often learning a lot more when I screw up. I was in a club on Friday night and I learned how to share YouTube over Zoom after the table topics that I had planned failed. Apparently there's a way you can do it. You can share the window and then share the computer sound and then it goes out. Who knew? Clearly not me. One other thing I do want to make sure to remind people about is that while a lot of this feels like many of the manuals and the speech manuals that we used to have, it focuses on how to communicate. It doesn't quite have that CL feel of tracking roles and encouraging people to do those roles. And that would be, let's see, I'm going to try to keep that active. Go into the My Account area under the little gear shift, and you can track the different tasks that you've done with the different dates. And I'm a little behind on some of these, but it's important to enter the dates for these fairly regularly because it's needed after level 3. So being able to keep track of that is quite the bonus. One challenge that some clubs are facing is getting people to sign up for roles because they no longer have the CL. And one opportunity is something that Waukesha did about a year or so ago. They actually came up with this great big huge chart. They had all the members' names down the side, so anybody that came into the club later, they were near the bottom, but they were still there, right with the rest of them. And then along the top, they had a whole bunch of different tasks that come up over the course of either a meeting or a Toastmasters year, just to make sure people are participating at different levels as they progress in their experience. So you had timer, grammarian, Toastmaster, evaluator, give a speech, but you also had things like bring in a guest. You had things like bring in a snack. You had attend a TLI or an outside meeting. So there were all sorts of really great different options available. And then at the end of the year, the people who completed the most or all of them get a present, because who doesn't like presents? And that's just one way to get that participation kicked up a little bit. So this was the 100,000 foot overview of Pathways structure. One thing that I like about having both the complex and the simple projects is the fact that I can add more paths later on, and it means that as I get stuck in the mire of doing really, really big projects that are months long, I can go back to a level 1 speech and be able to help my club out with a pocket speech. I'll be honest, right now I'm at level 3 or above in multiple paths, and I don't want to buy any more paths. So that's a challenge. I need to get working on my gigantic projects, but it's really kind of interesting how you can balance it out frequently. So I wanted to make sure and get just that basic information out as a review to make sure that each of you, as well as your material you share with your new members, you have all of that in place. But I think this might be a really good session for questions. So if anybody has questions, I would love to hear about it.
This is Liz. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm sorry, I was walking, so my internet was cutting back and forth from my home to my phone one when you were talking on part of your speech. We are meeting in the library through the end of the year, and then it looks like as mass participants, we'll be able to have more people meeting in the basement community room. So we have 5 meetings left. And we're trying to have everybody who wants to take advantage and do their level 4 for online meetings. But I thought I heard you say that there's also like using visuals, which is a level 3 option too. Did you say that?
Yeah, like visual aids.
Okay, because I have a lot of people that are at or approaching level 2, so that are level 3. And if we use the AV equipment there, we have to pay a couple $100 a year, which we don't have the money for. So it sounds like if people want to use Zoom type formats, we have 5 meetings to get this done. So we need to push that. Okay. Another thing we're doing.
Liz.
Yes.
Flag on the play. Visual aids does not mean PowerPoint, for the love of God. Visual aids can be pictures. Visual aids can be a prop. Visual aids can be just about anything. There is a level 3 that is specifically presentation software. So if they want to do that one, then yes, they would have to have ability to do that. But I mean, this is something I keep trying to drill into people in my clubs because it irritates me. People are like, oh, I can't do PowerPoint. Visual aids isn't PowerPoint. Visual aids is anything that is visual that is an aid to your speech. And by that definition, PowerPoint is disqualified a number of times because the PowerPoint slide does nothing to enhance the speech. So some of the best visual aid speeches I've seen were when people brought in, I know Nikki did one where she brought in and unpacked a backpack in front of the group, and she was showing them what all was in this backpack. We had one lady who brought in a photo album of her kids and had a few photos taken out that she put in a little stand. Worked really good for a small room. So encourage your members to get out of the PowerPoint box, so to speak.
Okay, what about, do you know what Prezi is? Because I'm currently designing a presentation on playfulness. It's going to be 5 to 7 minutes originally for like level 1, and then it's going to become a 20-minute speech. But I was thinking if eventually I'm working in a separate path too, and I'll hit level 3, could I have one of those be, if I use, do you know what Prezi is? Where it's kind of like a newscaster where it like shows up on part of the screen. Have you seen it? It doesn't like take over the whole screen like Zoom would. Would that count for visual aids?
I've seen a little bit with it. As far as I'm concerned, that's presentation software, which is a visual aid if it's used well.
Well, I mean, you can like act like you're touching it and pulling it around too, depending on how you interact with it. But you have to like stand on your mark, and it's pretty intense in terms of knowing where you're going to be when it's filmed and stuff when it shows up. But that's something I'll have to look at it more. But maybe there'll be a way I can incorporate that too.
Well, I think with the visual aids and Zoom, one advantage to Zoom is that while you're not using PowerPoint, which I frankly don't have a copy of on my home computer, you can use different website resources. Like, yeah, you could pull something off of YouTube and use it as a visual aid. So if I wanted to include a snippet of, the JFK speech or something like that, I could find that on YouTube and use that clip as a visual aid.
Okay.
and then hit end share, and then go on with the rest of my speech. Having visual aids on Zoom, on the one hand, some of it's really cool because it's really hard to prepare a recipe in a library. But if you carry your phone and prop it someplace stable while you're cooking and showing people and demonstrating, visual aids. So, I mean, there's a lot of really good options to do during Zoom.
Okay.
So
I brought
I have
a
one other
visual aid
question.
to an evaluation at one meeting. I was doing an evaluation of somebody, and I was talking about studying the camera. I got off screen for like 10 seconds, wandered over, grabbed a tripod, zoomed my thing out, and held the tripod up so they could see what I was talking about. So lots of opportunity.
I have another question, if I may ask it. On the first Thursday in December, before we lose our PowerPoint stuff, we're doing a Panachuka meeting, a specialty meeting, which is, it's like this Japanese concept. We've never done anything like that before, but it means no more than 20 slides, and you can't be on a given slide or image, whatever they put up, for more than 20 seconds to tell us. So it's a different, unique way of telling a story. But would there be a way that we could shove that into the visual aid? Where can we put that? I mean, we were just doing it for fun, but like, how could some people, if they participate, get credit for that?
well, it could be just any of the other speeches depending on what the subject matter is. I think that it could count as visual aid.
Okay, so you wouldn't have a problem with that one counting as a visual aid?
Well, I'm not your VPE, so I don't matter.
I am. But they probably would be using PowerPoint or Keynote, something similar. So that's
actually,
probably, or it could be a bunch of pictures too.
Because you can just click through on if you have a folder of pictures, depending on exactly which photo handler you're using, you can click through them as well without invoking PowerPoint. We actually had somebody do that type of a speech in a speech contest, and it was the first speech contest I ever attended.
And it counted? You could, with the visual aids?
It was a speech contest. Yeah, it was a speech for
Was
contest.
it the one where there were the chickens, the roosters, like a year or so ago?
No, it was 6 years ago.
Okay, I don't think I would have been going to Toastmasters.
I'm trying to remember the guy who did it. But so, I mean, as Toastmasters, the idea is that we read the project, we see what it talks about, and then we base our project on what it talks about.
Mm-hmm.
So I have not read the
You haven't read the specific project.
I've not read either of those projects. So I have not read visual aids or the presentation software details.
Okay.
And each of them are going to give you some specific criteria to make that presentation better.
I'll have to look.
For what it's worth, that criteria is only about 2 screens in to the project. So when you go into Pathways, if you're wondering whether something will fit, you can access all projects on all levels right now. So pop into level 3, pop into visual aids, activate the project, launch it. You don't have to complete it once you launch it. You just have to activate it and launch it. Click through the first couple of screens, and there will be one screen that will say something like your assignment. And it will give you a nice bulleted out list. Boom, 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 boom. These are all of your project objectives. Look at those objectives. See whether that's somewhere in the ballpark of what you're thinking about doing. And then if it is, then read the rest of the project, because you'll probably learn some cool stuff there and then give your speech.
Well, and I'll look before our next meeting too, because we do have 5 more meetings, and sometimes we have issues with getting people to want to present. But if they know that they have these opportunities, and we're not going to be paying to have some of the technology once we go back to the library, it might encourage people to give presentations faster than they would have otherwise. So maybe not, but we'll see. It's worth a shot.
I could be wrong, but my feeling is that even if we back out to being able to meet in person, it might not stay that way all the time. So having options that work for either hybrid or virtual meetings again in your back pocket is not a bad thing.
Yeah, I unfortunately agree with you. I've seen universities like UW-Madison shut down for 2 weeks due to COVID. And we had one guy who had joined our club. He came to us right before we shut down, maybe came for a couple months. And then he decided he's not going to renew his dues because he doesn't want to meet on Zoom. And we have someone else who's paying dues, who's a former member who's paying, but she's not coming because she doesn't want to. We have problems with members we have a couple members who don't want to come because we're not meeting in person. So if at some point we can go hybrid or at least say we tried to go back, maybe COVID shuts us down, but it's hurting our club in some
Right.
ways.
No, I'm just saying specifically for the visual aids project.
Okay.
If people might have to back it up by a month or so, that might be an option. But
Or we could always do like a
schedule
special Zoom-a-thon or something too to make it happen if we needed to.
Yeah, schedule a Zoom meeting, a speak-a-thon that's all Zoom. Just schedule that.
that's actually a really cool idea. One of my clubs meets once a month, and we are constantly having special events outside that one meeting.
Really?
Yep.
When do you guys meet?
Friday nights.
I don't have anything on Friday nights. Send me a link next time. Maybe I can come.
It's DJAB.
Oh, yeah, that's a problem. Yeah,
So
I'm pretty straight-laced. That's the thing.
that's fine. I'm just saying.
But I still might like it. I might come to it once just to see it.
So
Teresa,
Yep.
I'd just like to flag that it's 6:30 right now, so
Yep.
I just want to double check with Jeff and Yuri and Jackie to find out if any of them have any questions. Jeff, Yuri, Jackie, we want to make sure we set a half-hour meeting, and we know we're at that right now, but do either of you have any questions that you'd like to bring up, or are you good?
I heard that, and I think I heard that it's possible to view the project in all 5 levels of a given path compared to before, where somebody has to complete a level before moving on to next level. Is that the correct change?
Yep, it changed a bit ago, and it allows you to check out different projects without committing to it. And you can look at things that if you start your officer year and you know you're going to want to get that officer project done, lead in, I can't remember if it's lead in an organization or something, it's a level 5 project. You get to actually read up on what's expected before the end of your year, so you make sure you hit all the milestones that are required. So it works really well that way.
So it allows you to look at every project, but it doesn't allow you to complete a project unless it's in the exact order, correct?
I believe the levels have to be submitted in order.
Right.
I think you might be able to submit individual projects early. I
can confirm that.
Okay.
We
So
are,
if
just
you-
so you know, with level 4 online meetings, we have some people that are running meetings that aren't at level 4 yet, and they can't submit credit for that until they advance to level 4. But as a club, we're like notating that they did it. So that's how we're working around some of that stuff.
Well, you don't even have to notate that they did it. They can just mark it complete in Basecamp. And as long as you trust your members, it's not an issue.
Okay.
So the member can note that it's complete. They just can't turn things in and get credit until they've done the previous work.
Okay. I have a question. You were saying how people can now look and see what's ahead, like levels ahead. Is that any member or just
Yes.
like officers?
Any member.
Okay.
Yep.
And where do you go to Navigator, or where do you go for that?
You go to your normal curriculum, the curriculum project, this part here. So here I'm looking at level 3. I think I still need to submit something for this one, but
What did you pull up to get to that?
I don't remember.
Just like Basecamp or something?
Yeah, it's how you get to your projects. Basically.
Okay.
It's
And I apologize, I'm walking right now, so I'm on my phone. I can't look at it like you are right now.
so
It's
like
just standard Basecamp.
you open your curriculum, and then you go in and it'll see what level you want. And for the heck of it, I'm going to take a look at level 5.
Okay. Yeah, because it would be worth it, since we're doing all these Zoom meetings, to make an announcement to our members that they can take a peek and look ahead.
Well,
Since they now can.
I've been to your meetings, and I know that you tell people to do all these levels. They need to look at the project.
Yeah.
So they shouldn't be doing something, nobody should do things based on somebody's say-so. If
Oh, they're
I'm-
not. And like for level 4, we're making them do all the work. Like they have to do all the pre-planning too. Like they're having to figure out who's in the slots.
No,
and
but I
stuff.
mean, they need to read the.
Oh, actually look at it. Yeah, I know what you're saying. We're not spoon feeding
Okay.
them that much, but we're just trying to
'cause
find ways to get them to fit in and do stuff.
So yeah, going into level 5 projects, and I can go into ethical leadership and check it out and find out what I need to do, even though I'm not at level 5 in this path.
What if you made like a little video and sent it to me about it? And then I could show it at the meeting. Do you like doing stuff like that?
I might be able
Because
to do
it
that.
already
If you send me a
exists
separate
in
email.
Pathways.
Okay.
So Pathways actually has a pile of videos that are available for you. If you go to tutorials and resources, and it'll take a second for it to wake up, tutorials and resources.
Would
So
you
they
like to
have-
come sometime as a speaker? I have 3 speakers at this meeting, but I made it up other ones. You know, we could put you on. You could just spend time talking about some of this stuff. Would you like to do that? Could you get credit for it somehow?
I'd be happy to support your club any way you need me to.
But it wouldn't help you at all?
I don't know. That's one thing I have to do is sit down and figure out projects.
Okay, yeah, because I'd
but-
like you to get credit too if you could.
So I went to tutorials and resources, and I believe it's under tutorials. Click tutorials, the tutorial videos, all sorts of really great videos right there online, accessible to all of us.
Okay.
So there's accessing your path, completing a level, launching a project, completing a project. So lots of really great basics are all available for anybody who's a visual learner who can use those videos.
Okay. I mean, some of it too, it's just me, you know, and if it's a different person coming in and talking, it's like an outside speaker with different credibility in some ways too.
Okay. Hi, Jeff's cat. Do you need any information about Pathways? Meow.
Enjoy your walk.
So if any clubs do have questions about specific aspects of Pathways, I'd be happy to, reach out and share information. I just wanted to make sure you all had at least the idea that there's different resources available. Robert put the Facebook group out on the chat. There's videos available right there in Pathways. If you're a visual learner, you have access to virtually all the projects. And it's a matter of, reading through the information and making sure that you know what's expected.
Can I just add too, if you're a VPE like Liz, working with a member who's in a path and the member is not super techie literate, but they're, getting Basecamp figured out, and they're like, oh, I'm trying to do this project. Can you help me? And you can't get them to get you a PDF. Ask in the Pathways forum. Somebody
Okay.
there will happily send you a PDF and help you out. Because
Okay.
all of these projects are downloadable as PDF. So you can get the guidelines and stuff anyway.
Yeah, and we skew older. I mean, with the exception of me and maybe one other person who's like in her 40s, everybody's like 60 and older. So technology is not our strong suit.
But it's just a matter of, you have that extra support. There's me, there's Robert, there's the Pathways group. You probably have previous VPEs who may have extra background in Pathways.
They have Kathy Shine.
Yeah, she's a former Pathway ambassador, so yeah, she knows a lot. The other thing she's doing too is we had a Facebook page, and when I was the PR person last year, I was just told the person that used to run it didn't know how to use it, and then she drilled down even further, and the person who supposedly had access, her tech boyfriend had set it up for. So now we have access to this, and Kathy's been posting all these things for us. Like when I finished my level 4, she posted it. She also does it for Cream City, and kind of recently finished a level, and she's posting stuff like that. So all those things are really helping. I noticed, I looked earlier today, and we had like 53 views on a post, and it hasn't even been up for a day yet. So I don't know if it's just our friends who's seeing it or who's looking at it, but I think we're going to get some good traction from that too. So
Sweet. Hey, Jeff, how's Southwest doing? Do you guys have any challenges coming up, or just rocking on?
Most members, they're in pathways and they're chipping away at it. Just a quick comment on when you talked about the structure of pathways and the icebreaker. A lot of people may have been complaining, why do I got to do an icebreaker again? I mean, for all the reasons you gave, they're good. But the reason I tell some of the other Toastmasters is that if you've been in a club for some time, obviously there's a lot of new people coming into the club, and they may not really know the experienced Toastmasters. Because usually on an icebreaker, you give some background, personal information, where you grew up, where you went to school, how many kids you got, where you work. And I think that's, I tell members when they complain about it, I go, no, think about it. We got like 8, 9, 10 new members in the club. You've been in here for 10 years and they don't even know anything about you. So I think it's a good idea to give the icebreaker, just get it over with. It's not that tough of a thing. And for an experienced Toastmaster, you don't even have to prepare for it if that's what you want to give as an icebreaker. So that's another reason you may want to, if you're going to give this presentation again, to tell people about. But other than that, we're all good here, and I'm glad we can look at projects now, skip around and kind of look at projects in there. And I think people just got to do it on their own. They just got to start, going around. I mean, everybody lumbers around the first few times in there. Where's this? How do I get back? But once you get going, I just tell people, just keep using it. You'll figure it out. So for the most part, it's all good, and we're hoping to get back to meeting and face-to-face soon.
Have you found a new location, or?
No, we just talked to the senior center where we're at, where they give it for free, and they go, look, nothing came down from their corporate ownership yet as to when we can get back in there. And I've been checking with a lot of the libraries too. Just a quick question, because I know we're all overtime.
Mm-hmm.
So Liz, you're meeting at Hales Corners Library. So how many people are allowed in that room?
we're not currently there, and Kathy's the one who negotiated the contract. Kathy Shanka gave you, but I think right now, unless we only had 9 people, we couldn't do it, and we have more than 9 people attending our meeting, so we decided not to do it. But in January, they have a big community room in the basement. We used to meet upstairs in a board room that could maybe squeeze in 20 people pre-COVID. But it sounds like, and Kathy could tell you the details, but it sounds like in January, if everybody's masked, we did a Survey Monkey thing asking members, and our members want to be masked. So maybe it's us deciding, but it sounds like in January, we can pack more than 9 people into that room downstairs. But Kathy is the one involved with that stuff, and I don't touch that, she does.
All right, thanks.
Sure.
Cool. So thank you very much for coming in this evening. I hope this gives you a better perspective on some pathways. Reminder that dues are due in 17 days. Mm-hmm. And I sent an email out to my clubs because if we all wait until the absolute end and then there's like a 1-digit difference somewhere, that's problematic. So get your dues in early.
I have one more question for you, Teresa.
I'm going to say goodbye to everybody else first, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming. Have a great evening.
Bye. I'm going to stay for the question.
Sweet.